Have you noticed that nowadays, the more a man shows emotion, the more he's tested? The more you try to show you care, the more she pulls away. Here's a hard truth no one tells you. Being good isn't always enough, especially when she's playing the cold and calculated game. The problem is, too many men are still trapped in a romantic illusion. They believe that persistence, chasing, and being endlessly understanding will eventually win her heart. But let me tell you something that might sting. Women don't connect with men who devalue themselves in hopes of being accepted. They connect with presence, with emotional maturity, with men who don't fall into emotional traps. In this video, you'll understand why her silence might be the most powerful answer you've ever received, and why your biggest mistake has been trying to decode someone who doesn't even know if she wants to be understood. I'll show you how a Stoic man deals with rejection, coldness, and indifference, with the mind of a king and the shielded heart of a warrior. If you're tired of being drained by unbalanced dynamics, and you want to learn how to position yourself as the prize, even when she plays games to diminish you, then stick with me until the end. The change starts now. And yes, it will hurt before it frees you. But I promise you this, after this, you'll never be the same. Because while boys suffocate her, the Stoic man steps back with class and lets the silence show who's really in control. 1. Give her space and time. A Stoic man doesn't suffocate, he attracts. There's a sharp difference between a mature man and a needy boy. The mature man respects her timing. The boy demands emotional guarantees before there's even a real connection. What he doesn't realize is that by pressuring her for answers, he's handing away his own value. He tries to rush something that should be built slowly, and what's rushed usually breaks. A high-value man understands that respect also speaks through silence. The need to define everything quickly, to label the relationship, to ask, where is this going, often comes more from insecurity than clarity. When a man forces the pace, what he's really showing is fear of loss. That fear pushes her away. The urge to accelerate a relationship rarely comes from purpose. It comes from emotional dependency. Real connections have their own rhythm. And the wise man observes that rhythm with strategy, not desperation. Boys suffocate. They suffocate because they confuse presence with possession. They think persistence is love, when it's really just a desperate attempt to gain control. The Stoic man, he plays differently. He knows that giving space is one of the most powerful forms of attraction. He doesn't chase, he walks with certainty. And those who want to join him follow. He is the prize. He doesn't offer himself up like a free sample to someone who's still undecided. Want a practical example? When you catch yourself forcing conversations, making up excuses to reach out, or feeling anxious in her silence, stop. Breathe. Step back with elegance. Go read The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, or Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Do something for you. She can feel when you're not desperate. And more importantly, you begin to feel it too. The magic happens in the space. It's in the space that she has time to think, to miss you, and to choose. And it's in that same space that you return to yourself, to your center, and ask the real question. Am I here because this makes sense, or because I'm afraid of being alone? And when you know the difference, your eyes start seeing the next step more clearly, and maybe a little colder too. 2. Focus on your purpose. She can feel when you're aligned. The biggest mistake a man makes today is orbiting around a woman's interest. He ignores his own life's purpose in an attempt to decode signals she's not even clear about. And that's how he gets lost in the emotional game without realizing it. A high-value man doesn't live for external validation. He's guided by his vision of the future, not by the mood swings of someone who doesn't know if she wants to stay or leave. While most men beg for emotional breadcrumbs, the mature one plays with strategy. He knows that presence isn't about being around all the time. It's about being remembered, even in your absence. A practical example: replace daily check-ins with visible progress. Instead of asking, "Are you okay?" 5 times a day, show consistent growth in your work, mindset, and body. Presence is depth, not desperation. Clarity earns respect. Desperation pushes her away. She may not understand why he's so magnetic, but she feels it. She feels it when he's aligned with his truth. And it throws her off, especially if she's used to controlling men through emotional neediness. The Stoic man doesn't play to please. He plays to win. And winning here means keeping his dignity, even in the face of her indifference. His emotional maturity is worth more than any quick response. Purpose is like an anchor in the chaos. When she starts to cool off, he doesn't beg for warmth where there is none. He observes. He reads the energy calmly. He adjusts if needed, but he never disconnects from his center. That kind of self-mastery is rare, and it's exactly what triggers true interest. Because if he doesn't need her to feel complete, she starts wanting to be part of his completeness. This isn't about being cold or arrogant. It's about not falling into emotional manipulation, about not acting from fear of losing, about refusing to accept scraps in exchange for your self-worth. And it's this shift in mindset that changes everything. Because once she realizes she no longer has control, the most dangerous game begins, the one where she starts doubting herself. 3. True interest doesn't require effort. There's a quiet truth most men aren't ready to face. When she's truly interested, she makes it easy. No lame excuses, no strategic disappearances, no dry replies after 3 days. Real interest doesn't come wrapped in unnecessary obstacles. A high-value man spots this fast, because he's learned to recognize the natural flow of connection, and he doesn't push where there's resistance disguised as charm. Too many men were taught that the more they chase, the more valuable they become. But that's not how it works. Over-efforting is a sign of emotional dependency, not devotion. When a man feels the need to constantly prove himself, he's playing against his own value. Healthy relationships are built on reciprocity, not struggle. She's not a trophy to win through sacrifice. She's either choosing you or she's not. Pay attention. A woman who's into you shows it. She starts conversations. She's present. She remembers details. She's curious about your life. You don't need control or constant strategy. And when a man is observant, when he shows up with presence, he picks up on this and responds at the same level. No forcing, no begging, no anxiety. He honors the flow that comes naturally. Here's a simple practice. Stop investing in someone who doesn't invest in you. If she takes 24 hours to answer a simple good morning, maybe what's missing isn't patience, it's clarity. A powerful question to ask yourself. If I were my own mentor, would I advise myself to keep pursuing this? That question alone can save you months, or even years, wasted in an emotional game that only drains you. A mature man filters before he gets attached. Now comes the hard part. How do you keep your dignity when your mind romanticizes crumbs as signs of love? That takes emotional maturity. It takes the ability to separate genuine effort from humiliation disguised as hope. And once a man internalizes that, he begins to see a whole new level of the game, where her lack of interest is actually the greatest gift she could have given him. 4. Rejection doesn't define his worth, it reveals his emotional control. An emotionally mature man doesn't break down when he's ignored. He doesn't lose sleep over a message seen and unanswered. He doesn't shrink just because she's gone cold. A high-value man doesn't build his self-worth on a woman's emotional temperature. He understands that her coldness is often a disguised test, and he knows that reacting with desperation is like handing over his power on a silver platter. When she begins to pull away, he doesn't send long texts or create drama. He steps back with dignity. To him, rejection is observation. It's a chance to see things with clarity. He analyzes the situation like a calm strategist. While most men react, he chooses to respond, and that changes everything. He doesn't beg for crumbs. He knows that if he has to compete for her attention, he's already lost what matters most, self-respect. The key here is emotional maturity. Let's be real. It's easy to feel confident when everything's flowing. But the real test begins when she pulls away. The average man panics. The Stoic man returns to purpose. He doesn't get lost in absence, he grows in it. And the stronger he gets, the more he realizes how small he had become trying to force reciprocity in a space that only offered convenience. Want a practical way to respond when she seems distant? Easy. Accept the space with elegance. Don't chase. Refocus on yourself. Hit the gym. Mute her chat. Read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Do the exact opposite of what your anxiety tells you to do. While others beg for explanations, you evolve in silence. She might not notice now, but when she does, it'll be too late for someone who failed to value you in time. The Stoic man doesn't fear silence. He owns it, because he knows his value isn't in how often she replies, but in how whole he remains when she says nothing at all. And in that level of inner control lies the key to what comes next, something that will demand even more clarity and maybe a deeper dose of detachment. 5. Mixed signals aren't invitations, they're warnings for the weak-minded. When a woman sends mixed signals, the average man sees mystery, but the high-value man sees misalignment. He doesn't romanticize uncertainty, he decodes it, because emotional maturity teaches that real connection comes with clarity, not riddles. Romantic illusion is for those who need drama to feel alive. For the Stoic, what's real is simple, and what's simple is direct. Confusing texts, vague comments, emotional hot and cold. These are subtle forms of unconscious manipulation. Maybe she doesn't mean harm, but it happens. And if a man is still trapped in emotional neediness, he'll take this as a game he needs to win. The wise man, he knows not every game is worth playing. Lack of clarity is the first red flag that he may be investing where he shouldn't. He doesn't react with drama. He observes. He reads the context, the patterns, the timing, the enthusiasm, or the lack of it. He doesn't build expectations where there's only convenience. Need an example? If she only replies when she's bored or disappears for days then acts like nothing happened, he doesn't argue. He disappears too, but not out of ego, out of strategy. His presence has value, and not just anyone gets access to it. The weak male mind creates fantasies to make sense of nonsense. It makes excuses for her disinterest. She's just confused. She had a rough day. She'll come around. But the man who's been through this, who has fallen into these emotional traps before, now plays by a different rulebook. He's learned that constant doubt is toxic, and you only build something real on a foundation of clarity from day one. That's why he doesn't waste time trying to translate what wasn't clearly said. He doesn't fill in the blanks with hope. He doesn't attach himself to what could be. He looks at what is, and it's that unfiltered gaze that protects him from the emotional ruin many call love, but is really just a well-decorated trap. 6. His well-being comes first. That's not selfish, it's responsibility. A high-value man knows no one's coming to rescue him from himself. He understands that his mental health, emotional stability, and peace are not luxuries, they're non-negotiables. He doesn't hand his well-being to anyone, especially not to an emotionally unstable woman. The Stoic man protects his inner world before trying to conquer anything outside. He doesn't exhaust himself trying to please someone who doesn't even know what she wants. Protecting his energy is more than a decision, it's emotional survival. Being with someone who constantly drains him is like trying to cross the ocean in a leaking boat. Eventually you sink. He knows any relationship that threatens his peace must be questioned. That takes a mindset shift, from begging for scraps to treating yourself as someone worthy of abundance. And he does this without guilt, because he's realized that self-care isn't weakness, it's wisdom. He trains not just for his body, but for the mental clarity it brings. He sleeps well. He meditates. He puts the phone down and reconnects with his own silence. Books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle become part of his routine. Because the stronger he is on the inside, the less he depends on outside stimulation to feel alive. Maybe he learned the hard way that a cold woman can become slow poison. And if he doesn't shield himself emotionally, he'll start justifying the unjustifiable. He'll begin accepting crumbs as signs of affection. He'll adapt to her indifference while crumbling inside. And once he's there, coming back without scars is nearly impossible. That's why he never lets it get that far. Protecting his well-being doesn't mean he's heartless. It means he has emotional maturity. He knows you can only give your best to someone else when you've already built the best within yourself. And to get there, you need to cut the excess, cut the noise, cut the emotional addictions. 7. He reassesses the emotional investment, because not every woman deserves his energy. There comes a time when the high-value man stops trying, not because he doesn't feel anything, but because he's finally seeing clearly. He steps back, reflects, and asks himself, is this really worth my energy? That reevaluation isn't cold, it's strategic. He knows every emotional connection has a cost, and the Stoic man doesn't spend his energy where there's no return. Not every bond deserves depth. This kind of man knows how to tell the difference between curiosity and true interest. He understands that attention isn't affection, and that a woman who merely tolerates his presence is not truly choosing him. When he sees that he's giving more than he's receiving, in time, energy, or emotion, he adjusts course. While others cling out of fear, He lets go out of intelligence. He doesn't stay where clarity is lacking. Here's a practical move. When you find yourself always initiating, always planning alone, always getting lukewarm replies, pause. Stop trying. In that stillness, you'll see the obvious. You've been watering something that only you are trying to keep alive. The mindset shift here is powerful. He stops seeing rejection as loss and starts seeing it as a filter. Her absence might be exactly what he needed to come back to himself. This reevaluation doesn't come from bitterness or pride. It's born from emotional maturity and self-respect. He knows his energy has weight, and giving it to someone emotionally unstable is like planting flowers in dry cement. It's not going to grow, no matter how much he wishes it would. Even if she gives just enough to keep him hooked, but never fulfilled. The breakthrough moment is when he understands her silence is a response. Her uncertainty is a direction, and staying there any longer would mean disrespecting himself. That's when the game flips. He stops trying to prove his worth, and becomes the one watching from a distance, calmly, firmly, with a decision that goes far beyond the relationship itself. 8. He cultivates inner abundance, because he knows the worth he carries. A high-value man doesn't walk around looking for someone to complete him. He already feels whole. He doesn't chase approval, he already approves of himself. He knows what he carries, and more importantly, he knows what he offers. That's why he only accepts the best. Not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. Losing someone who can't see that value? Irrelevant. The universe is far too abundant to suffer over someone who can't recognize gold when it's in front of them. This man doesn't beg for love. He doesn't ask for emotional scraps, because he is the source. He's learned how to build inner wealth, purpose, presence, clarity, peace. He doesn't fear being alone. His solitude is fertile. He grows in it, reinvents himself in it. And when someone comes along, it's not to rescue him, it's to add. And if she doesn't add, he lets go. With dignity. Without drama. The abundance he cultivates isn't just emotional, it's mental, spiritual, physical. He trains. He studies. He practices gratitude. He reads Seneca, James Clear, Napoleon Hill. He's always evolving. That's why any energy that lowers his frequency is filtered out. What once was neediness is now discernment. What used to be fear is now criteria. Want a mindset shift? Stop asking, why didn't she choose me? And start asking, why am I still accepting less than I deserve? That single question flips the entire script. Because once he knows his worth, he starts realizing that being with someone who can't see it is deeply out of alignment. And the Stoic man might be many things, but inconsistent with his value? Never. At the end of the day, he knows that attracting a high-value woman starts with becoming a high-value man. Living in abundance isn't about having endless options. It's about having the wisdom to choose right. And when he reaches that state of presence, purpose, and emotional clarity, the universe moves in ways he never expected. And the irony? It all begins when he stops chasing. It's time to stop acting like being with a woman is the reward, and start acting like you are the reward. Because you are. If you've made it to the end of this video, you already know. The high-value man doesn't play to please. He plays to protect his dignity. He doesn't force anything. He observes, chooses, and when needed, walks away with strength. So let me ask you, how many times have you forgotten your worth just to be chosen? How often did you mold yourself to her silence, her confusion, the crumbs she tossed just to keep you close? That ends today. It's time to take the wheel of your emotional life. Stop negotiating your peace. Prioritize your well-being. Now tell me, will you keep pouring energy into someone who can't see your value? Or will you start building a life so aligned with your purpose that anyone who wants to come along better rise to meet your level? Write this in the comments. I am the prize. A simple sentence. A powerful reminder that your energy is too sacred to waste. If this message hit home, thank you truly for staying until the end. This channel exists for men like you. Men seeking clarity, growth, and emotional control. Your journey matters, and you're not alone. If this video helped you, like it, share it with a brother who needs to escape the emotional trap, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one.